Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes Podcast. My name is Audrey and this is a nitty yarny podcast from the southwest of France. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you are all doing very well. I have a nice episode, I hope, for you because I have a few exciting things to share and a few new projects to show you as I have been able to knit more. Again, I am recovering from my little elbow drama that I mentioned to you in the last episode. So, yeah, I have published a new exciting pattern on Ravelry. I have a couple other finished objects, whips as well. I will also talk about spinning and a knitting book that I want to share with you. You can find timestamps to all the different sections of the podcast in the description down below, so if you want to skip anything, feel free to jump ahead. There will also be links to everything that I talk about, as well as my social media and patterns on Ravelry. That's it. I think we can start with the knitting. So I have a new pattern that I just published on Ravelry and I am excited and nervous as this is the Tolosa sweater, which I had shown you as a work in progress and that I had as well briefly showed you when it was done. So this is my first garment pattern. So it is a raglan shaped mid-season kind of sweater, which has these texture panels on the sides, as well as this more obvious twisted cabling thing at the back. And this gives the sweater kind of a retro waist-fitted style as it naturally goes in. So you can do two ways. Either do it like I did, and it is the way that I am wearing it in the pattern pictures, that is have some ease, like 5-10 centimeter ease on the bust, meaning that you will have a slightly blousy effect and it will be rather fitted on your waist. Or you can choose a little bit more ease and then you will have a more comfortable, a little bit more boxy shaped sweater, which is what some of my testers have done. Yeah, it is a rather simple sweater to knit. I had testers that were more beginners and they did an absolutely amazing job, so I believe it is perfectly suitable if you want a casual knit, but maybe with a little bit more than just plain stockinette all over. Yeah. The textures themselves are also fairly easy. You have to pay attention to their placement, but after a while you will notice that they're very geometrical and that you can easily tell where you are. There are written instructions as well as charts for this. I have used a fingering weight yarn. The gauge for this is 22 stitches per 10 centimeters. Some of my testers, you will see, have used Spore or DK weight yarn because they wanted a sweater that would be a little bit denser and a little bit more wintry. I used Maison Corlaine yarn in their Belle Époque type of yarn, which is 80% wash merino, 20% silk in the Sybil colorway, which is this beautiful like brick reddish color that along with the kind of architectural vibe of the motif inspired the name Tolosa, or the red bricks of Toulouse. Now, this is a superwash yarn, and it's very suitable for lighter weight garments. I found something recently about superwash yarns, is that when you have a natural yarn, a non-superwash wool, it tends to reject humidity in a certain way that makes it hot. It basically, the process of the wool being impermeable and absorbing humidity gives heat. And the reaction gives heat. I found this out recently. That was really interesting, and it kind of reminded me of an experiment that I saw someone did on their Instagram stories. They had two swatches, one with superwash wool and one with non-superwash wool, and they put a few drops of water on them. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. I filmed a French episode just before, so but it was really, really fun to see how the drops stayed on the surface of the non-superwash wool, the natural wool. You could still see the drops. They were not absorbed by the wool. So because wool is it has a resisting to water effect because of how the fibers, I guess, kind of mesh together and stay strong to resist the humidity. On the other hand, the superwash one was absorbing humidity super, super fast, because I guess it needs to be able to do so to resist washing. And I don't know, I thought this all kind of made sense if you consider that superwash yarns are less warm than non-superwash. And maybe it has to do with their the way they interact with water, because water makes the other non-superwash wool hotter by kind of resisting to it and having this reaction. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I hope I made sense. But yeah, just so to say that this yarn is very, very pleasing to work with. It is a really puffy yarn. It has 365 meters to 100 grams. So even though my gauge is quite a loose fingering weight gauge, you can see that it's a pretty cohesive fabric, and it showed the motif really, really well. Again, 22 stitches per 10 centimeters, so you usually want these kinds of motifs to be on a rather tight surface, but I find that if you use a yarn with a good stitch definition, it shows really, really well. And all of my testers have had nice results with various types of yarn, but the common key was to make sure that they had a rather nice crisp definition. But yeah, but yes, it is available on Ravelry. I'm a little bit nervous. A lot of you said you liked it, so thank you so much. I really like it. I really enjoy wearing it over dresses or under some sort of a lightweight kimono jacket. I think I'm going to get lots of wear out of it in this autumn, and you probably see me wearing it around quite a lot. And this is one of my favorite colors, so it's just the beauty of the yarn just matched my idea so perfectly. And you can get 20% off the pattern until this Sunday with the code Tolosa. Everything will be written in the description down below. So yeah, thank you everyone for your support on this. It really means a lot, and yeah, this I really hope this works out and that you guys like it. My testers versions are lovely, and yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys make if you like to take part in the blousy, vintagey, twisted stitches sweater vibe. I want to take this opportunity to thank my testers who have done a really nice job, and I also want to talk a little bit about the test knitting process for me. I have put on Instagram the guidelines for test knitting so that I can refer to it when I have calls in the future. I just want to really put emphasis on the fact that during the test knitting process, the important thing for me is to communicate. I had some hiccups with this, and that is not really pleasant. So I just wanted to address the topic and talk about how I feel about test knitting and what it is that I, as a designer, need when I ask for test knitters. Testing is not just about getting the free pattern. I need your help, and my work depends on your honesty and your application in testing, and then putting up a Ravelry product page with photos to help me with the pattern when it's released. I do not need extraordinary knitters, super skilled, they know everything, they knit super fast. This is not what I need. My best testers apologized about how they were not able to finish on time and that they kept asking me questions. Like, no, this is exactly what I need. There is never too much communication during a test. Keeping me updated on your progress, sending me pictures, asking me any questions, even if it is silly. There's no silly question. That is that is what I need. If I have strict timelines or things that I really, really need, I will say it up front, but that I don't bite. And if you have a life, things happen, and if there's a problem for any reason, I want you to tell me. Sometimes things don't go as planned, and that is absolutely fine. What is not fine is committing to a test, taking the pattern, and then poof, you're gone and you're never heard of ever again. Whether it is pure evil intention or that you really have a problem, it is just disappointing if you don't take the time to warn me as a designer. And so now I have like a mini blacklist, which I think is absolutely horrendous, but that I kind of feel like I have to do. It's really stressful and vulnerable to depend on testers. So when you commit to a test, the priority is communication. I just wanted to say that. And to end on to talk about the heroes of the day, I am extremely thankful to my testers for this weather. I'm nervous, and it's my first garment. It is really important to me as I really like it, and you have helped me a lot with it, and thank you so much. So that is that to keep in mind in the future if you ever apply for testers for test knits, whether it is for me or for someone else. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes, if you have issues. Just honesty is what is worth in the process. So that is the pattern release that I am having. I am excited, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think of the pattern. And thank you so much for everyone's support. I have a couple of FOs, so I will get on that. The first one is a pair of socks I was knitting. If you remember, I had this casual sock knitting thing with this rainbowy yarn that I dyed myself a little bit ago. There was a little thing here when it got blocked and it made a bump. I don't know what's up with that. But I finished the pair. I repeated the silly toe as you have seen last time. And they're nice and done. I am not sure that I will cast on another pair of socks right away because I have a few projects that are just mindless knitting, so I don't really need another pair of socks right now. But I can promise that I won't succumb to my self-striping stash in a couple of days. We'll see. I have another FO that I will just quickly show you because it is a design, and I will talk about it a little bit more when it's ready. It's a colorwork hat. Here it is. This is a Millma hat. Millma for wool in Quechua. Idea is from my boyfriend. I harass him for name pattern ideas, and every time he sees colorwork, he thinks it's reminded. He is reminded. Your construction with the reminding it, that construction in English is really awkward to me, and so sometimes I mess it up. I'm sorry. He gets reminded of. I think that's okay. He gets reminded of Inca and kind of ancient Latin American civilization, and it's funny because it's not something I ever think about. I guess because you were so aware of the Scandinavian traditions, it's not in my head. But actually, when you look about it, it is so true that it really looks, especially this motif, it really has an architectural vibe, and with the gold touch, obviously. So yeah, Millma will be a hat for this winter. I knitted it out of Holst Garn Supersoft in Nougat, vintage heather, and gold Crest. So you need a light fingering to fingering weight. The gauge is 29 stitches per 10 centimeter. I really like this motif. The thing is, it's quite a wide motif, so it is not easy to incorporate in any type of garments. But I was very lucky because it happened to have fitted quite well for a medium-sized hat, women's hat, as you can see. And so, yeah, it's rather easy to do. It's still interesting. I think it's quite a nice motif to do because of how the things travel, so to say, and the little accents of gold here and there. Yeah, I really enjoyed knitting on it. Obviously, it went super fast. I will ask for testers for this, not now, in the future, probably around October, so that it's ready for the actual winter. But yes, I like it. It will fit most women's head between 52 to 57 centimeters. Like I said, it is a thick motif. And so the thing is, if I modify it, I add or remove about 12 centimeters, which is huge. And so it either makes a size way too small, even for a baby, or something way too big, even for a man. And I couldn't really alter the motif. You see, I could potentially make it bigger by adding space here, but I don't think it's worth it because I have like a 55 centimeters head, and you can see it's quite comfortable on me. It's even a bit slouchier. Keep in mind I have really thick hair, and so I think it will fit even larger heads than mine, so I don't necessarily need it to be bigger. I could have gone with something smaller, but I can't reduce the motif without significantly altering it, so there will only be one size. Even though you know that for hats it is rather easy to modify the gauge and make calculations to get something with a different finished circumference, so I would be willing to help on that if necessary, but yeah, this one using light fingering gauge will be a average adult women's head. Yeah, so these are my FOs for this week, and not that my hair looks any better when I didn't put a hat on, you know, I have quite frizzy hair. Whenever I take pattern pictures, and I noticed that my hair is so frizzy. Yeah, it kind of bugs me, but you know, I can't do anything about it. I have a couple of whips, new whips actually. The first one is going to be a shawl. Both of them are designs, by the way. Only designs whips at the moment, because I have picked up my Saunders poncho, my alpaca poncho, but I am still on the moss stitch massive square. So yeah, I kind of want to make some progress on that before casting on another project that is not a design. But yeah, this will be a crescent shaped shawl. This is Triptych, and to start off with the crescent shape, which is absolutely impossible to show you while it's on the needles, but you know, when you cast on for a crescent shape, you always have that sort of little hump at the top because of the garter tab thingy, and it never really looks really flattering. It kind of makes how's it called, a bat shape. And so I really didn't like this. It was really obvious with this, especially since I'm using decay. And so, and I luckily came across, you probably know the designer behind Lyrical Knits. On Instagram, she posted that she had a tutorial to make a modified gather tab on that eliminates that problem, and that makes a smooth start for the shape, and that has eyelets all around. So as you can see, this is, it's not perfect because it's not blocked, but as you can see, there are eyelets everywhere. And the tutorial is available if you subscribe to her newsletter, and yeah, it really makes the crescent shape work smoothly without the hump. I guess this will be really obvious when I block it, because right now it's a little bit complicated since it's on the needles. But yeah, I recommend that you check that out if you like crescent shape but you're bothered by that thing. This shawl has a purpose. This will be the Triptych shawl, because it will use 3 different weights of yarn in one gauge. So continuing with my gauge vendetta, I wanted to make a pattern that will be like a tool for people to understand gauge and to make it easier for them to see how density changes if you use different weights of yarn but keep the same numbers. Yeah, I kind of wanted to bust 2 common misconceptions about gauges. The first one being that the gauge is a weight of yarn. That is not true. Fingering weight is not equal 26 stitches per 10 centimeters all the time. Firstly, what fingering weight are we talking about? And should we really limit ourselves to one type of density? Can we not have a loose gauge for lace or fluidity? Or can we not have a denser fabric for colorwork and twisted stitch knitting, etc.? And the second mistakes I often see is that gauge is dependent on how you knit. That people who knit tight cannot get the same gauge as people who knit loose, blah blah. That is not true. Gauge, the way you knit is irrelevant to whether or not you can or have to get the gauge for a pattern. You just have to knit with a different needle size. And yeah, gauge is simply the density of the fabric. So that is kind of what I'm aiming at, the things I'm trying to address with this shawl. And so the way it will work is that it will be a crescent shaped shawl, and you can see I started with decay and then I moved on to fingering weight, and the gauge I have unblocked right now is 19 stitches per 10 centimeters. So you can see in decay that you have a rather standard fabric, like the balance thing, the kind of things you would find written on a label of the yarn. And then I moved on to fingering weight, and you can see that it's a little bit looser, a little bit softer, and yeah, less firm. And it is the same gauge. And yeah, this is very appropriate for shawls. This is drapey enough, but it still has some firmness to it for the warmth. I changed needle size when transitioning, just I guess the way you hold differently, the different thickness of yarn. But yeah, all of these indications will be on the pattern. I will then introduce lace, which I forgot to bring. I will use a black lace yarn. And for now, this is just stockinette, but eventually I will introduce something fun because if not, I'm just going to get bored. This will be a free pattern on Ravelry. I really want it to be a tool for me to explain what I mean when I say just get the gauge. It doesn't matter what yarn and needle size you use, just get the gauge. For people that are scared because it's numbers, but just for them to understand that it's not something so technical. You just have to, it's easier for you to get gauge, to understand what you need to do to get gauge, whether it is choosing a different type of yarn, because, I kind of want to change the focus from when you look at a pattern and you see, oh, it's fingering weight, so I'm gonna get fingering weight. The way I tend to do, and I think is safer approach, is look at the gauge. I'm going to think, oh, okay, so this is 20 stitches per 10 centimeters. Well, I think that particular design needs to be drapey, so I can get a sport and it will just be nice. You see, that is my process, and then I know what kind of needle I need to swatch with to get that gauge with said sport yarn. That is what I want to do. That is why I'm making this pattern, and I hope to be working on it a little bit more in the next couple of weeks, so it can hopefully get to completion soon and be released. And the pattern will be fairly simple, even though, like I said, it will include a reference to that modified crescent garter tab, and I will also have some sort of textural interest, because you know me, I'm not going to make a pattern, even if it's free, where it's just stockinette. I plan on incorporating maybe some sort of cabling, I don't know yet, I'll see. The main focus is playing with 3 different weights in 1 gauge. I am using drops, Lima and Flora, and I will be using lace in black. My next work in progress is another wrap shawl design, and it is a wrap that I am designing with this beautiful yarn that I showed you a few episodes ago. This is Cosmic Strings Yak Lace, which is a merino yak silk blend of a single ply lace yarn. And I am designing a wrap with it, a wrap that has some lace. And I have done 1 repetition of the motif. So it will be a rectangular wrap, all in one go, that will play with 2 different types of lace motif. And so here is the start of one. There you go. It is very pleasing to knit with. It has a peculiar texture, I found. It's single ply, so yeah, but it's even different from merino single ply. It feels so lightweight and not so slippery, but really melty. It's really, really pleasant to work with, and it makes it beautiful. I have some portions of plain stockinette in that design, and it just makes a really beautiful lightweight fabric that is really, really soft to the touch. I am using 3.25 millimeter needles. I am getting a gauge that is rather, I'd say it's rather balanced for that type of yarn, instead of being loose, what we would do for usual lace, but I think that is fine. And this wrap already has a name. It is the Lucarne wrap, which means it's the type of window that is in a roof. Sometimes you have roofs that are going to have a little room and a window there. That is what a lucarne is. Comes from the word from Lux Lights, and it's lace, so window lace. Yeah, and I just thought it was really fitting with that absolutely beautiful color. It's the colorway Penny, by the way. I forgot to say, I believe. Just absolutely stunning. And yeah, I'm really enjoying working on it. I believe it's going to be quite a relaxing pattern to make, and so I hope to make some progress on it and get it ready for testing, so it can be released in the autumn, hopefully. But yeah, I think any type of lace yarn will look really good. Not necessarily, you know, a single ply, yuck thingy. I know some dyers have a BFL lace weight yarn that could be really interesting. I also think it will look nice in fingering weight, even though it will not be as delicate. And you'd have to make sure about the gauge to use the same meterage. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really delicate thing, and I can't wait to make more of this motif and incorporate the second one and show you what I had planned for the arrangement of these. Basically right now I have 3 repeats, as you can see. I hope I'll have enough with one skein. I have 100 gram, that is 100 meter. I hope it will be enough to make it as big as I want it to be, because it's quite wide actually, and I need it to be a certain length for it to be a wrap. But yeah, if I don't have enough, I'll just have to manage to get another one, which I don't necessarily want to do, because we all know that if I order from Cosmic Streams, I'm just going to come out with 50 skeins, so that's not a good idea. But yeah, so that is it for my whips. And are you wondering, Audrey, where is your Evenstar shawl? I frogged it. So Evenstar was my second lace circle shawl that I was making, and I just wasn't liking it. I think you could probably tell from my previous episodes, I just did not like it. And it's a shame, because I think the pattern is absolutely stunning. I will put a picture of the pattern here again. It is really, really beautiful, and I just don't know what was. Yeah. I think the motifs are too small, and that bodies of motifs are mostly constituted of yarn overs, which makes them by nature rather uneven before they're blocked, and that's why it wasn't looking too good. I just really wasn't enjoying it, and it's such a deception and a contrast from how pleasurable and how lovely it was my Green Gables project. But yeah, someone said that it might as well be because of the yarn, because of the lack of structure of alpaca. I don't think so, because it worked so well with Green Gables, and there's still some silk in the drop lace that gives enough definition, I think, sharpness to the thread. So I don't think it's so much the composition, but maybe it is a matter of it being lace. And I am starting to think that maybe Evenstar for me would look better in a fingering weight yarn. You know, even though it will make less delicate of a finished object, but maybe that is the solution for me. In any case, it wasn't working, and as you know, my elbow was hurting, and so it was just a burden, and I couldn't afford having this project I wasn't enjoying, so I just frogged it. And it was my first time giving up on a whip, but I'm a little bit disappointed, like I said. On top of that, it was supposed to be a gift, but you know, I wanted to focus on things that I needed to do for my design and that I was happy knitting. And yeah, I gained satisfaction and yeah, tranquility. But yeah, maybe I will do an Evenstar one day, try it again. I will definitely try to make some other lace projects, but yeah, in the meantime, this one was no, so it got frogged. And that's why this is all I have to show you this week as far as knitting content. I want to share with you some spinning now. I have started spinning something else on my electric wheel mini. I am spinning a braid, well, leftover from a braid. Leftovers from a braid. Oh my god. I'm going to be the first zombie knitting podcast, everyone. This is a braid that was hand-dyed by Heavenly Woos, which is a dyer from New Zealand. I'm not sure if she dyes it, if she still dyes, because I bought this a long time ago and I have made some weaving with it. And I have this left over, so I decided I would spin it. It's merino. And yeah, I'm just spinning it in singles and really trying to focus on making them strong enough. I really want to make chain ply. I love chain ply, the look of it, how round it is, the textures that it has, how it keeps the consistency of the color sequence. I really want to be able to spin that. And the thing is, obviously you make, if you don't know chain ply or Navajo ply, you kind of make a crochet chain when you ply. Basically it's a 3-ply because you pull the thread on itself. I don't know if that makes sense. I could show you. Here's. So imagine this is a single, and if I want to chain ply it, I'm going to make a loop. And I'm going to grab the running thread and pull it. And make a loop and pull it. That's Navajo ply. And as you can see, it makes a 3-ply. And I really love how it looks. It's super round. It's really, really nice. But you kind of need to be able to have some resistance in your single. And I've been really struggling with putting enough twist in my singles, like you know. And so I hope that I managed to do it well. I'm spinning very slowly with a rather loose tension on the bobbin. This is a Scotch tension. And yeah, high speed, low tension. It's kind of hard on the motor. I do feel the limits of this little precious little thing, but I really want to try it. And yeah, I have been enjoying spinning. It is a nice break from knitting, and I think I really want to try to have not a balance, because I will always be knitting more, but incorporate more spinning just so that my elbows and hands rest some more. So hopefully we will keep seeing spinning around here. And yeah, I paid off my student loan, by the way. So not completely, that's a lie. I paid a huge chunk in one go. I'm not going to get into details about it because that's a whole mess, and yeah. But just to say that I have a financial burden that's going away, and that I might eventually be able to start saving to buy a wheel. So cross fingers for me. Yeah, maybe if I ask for some help at Christmas, maybe I'll be able to get it. I'll see. But yeah. I did the mistake of touching my phone and now it's not straight. But I have a knitting book to share with you. And it's a book I had my eye on for a while. And it is Triptych Knitting by Maria Erlbacher. I don't speak German, I'm very sorry. Erlbacher? I can't do that. You know that sound that everyone thinks French do? Like, we don't. That's German. That's why I can't do it. Anyway, it is a collection of traditional motif from Austria and German traditional knitting, and especially you may have seen these stockings, these white stockings in traditional Bavarian costumes, kind of look like this. I really like specialized book. Of course, I want all the stitch dictionaries in the world, and some pattern collections are stunning. But when the book is specific, I really enjoy it. And you know, I especially like cables and twisted stitches. And so I had my eye on this book for a while, and I finally got it. And I am pretty happy with it. It is quite aged. The pictures are in black and white, okay, but they just look a bit blurry. The charts, because the patterns are charted, are a bit unusual to work with. They're not as comfortable, that's what I want to say. This is definitely not an easy thing to grab if you're a beginner, but it is still pretty understandable. There's an introduction, explaining you the principle of these twisted stitch knitting techniques, and especially the fact that you cross every row instead of, like most cable, crossing and having a rest row, which elongates and makes the cables plumper. Here the key is to have stitches that cross on every row, and so you end up with really tight motif. I'm trying to find some of my favorites here to show you. This is one, for example, I like. This is another one that's a little bit more airy. I really like this. I'm considering incorporating this in the Triptych shawl in some way or form. But yeah, you have almost 200 stitches. They're all vertical panels, so inserts for socks, sweaters, shawls if you work them the other way, or if you can modify them. But yeah, like I said, the good thing though about the fact that it is cables is that you can easily see the drawings. So if really the charts are not understandable for you, you can probably recreate them with by looking at them and understanding where the stitches are going. And yeah, there's a lot of little stitches that you can play and mix and make work together. And yeah, it's I really like that type of knitting. My elbows are screaming no just looking at those. I love this. I love these intricate things, but yeah, it's a little bit twisted, cabling everywhere, tiny gauge for it to really pop. Yeah, I'm picturing socks, I'm picturing sweaters, obviously. At the end, you have patterns, example of arrangements and guidelines for stockings and sweaters as well. And although obviously a full-on stocking looks a bit too much, not modern, the sweaters really look beautiful. It's funny how I wouldn't wear these socks, but I would wear this sweater. This is really nice. Yeah, you have the directions for making the sweater and as well the arrangements of the motifs. I really think it's a nice resource. It asks to be modernized and adapted, if that makes sense. So it really brings the impulse to modify things, only use one as an insert, I don't know, in the border for a blanket, things like this, you don't necessarily have to go all over and make a really complex full-on thing, even though those are beautiful. But yeah, it's a playful book, a playful collection, and I'm happy that I got it because I think it is really interesting. Yeah, so I believe that is all I have to share with you this week. I want to talk about something. I have just realized that many experienced knitters are not familiar with museling. it kind of surprised me. I don't know. I assumed everyone knew what it is. Everyone was against it and being careful and really wanted awareness around this. Apparently, it is still quite a hidden subject, and so I wanted to address it just in case some of you don't know what it is. So muesling is a way, basically it's a way of treating sheep farms. Basically, it involves cutting parts of their flesh under the tail at the back. It is to prevent certain infections. And we've even seen people saying that they were doing this for the animals to save them. You know, it was a good action. Well, at some point, I think we have to start acknowledging responsibility for making certain animals dependent with the selective reproduction we've forced them into and made them weaker for our own benefits. But yeah, if you were doing it in with good intentions, maybe you would use anesthesia. But yeah, it is an awful thing, and it is mostly used on certain types of sheep: merino, wrinkled big sheep, the Australian types. That basically they're big, heavy, wrinkled, and so yeah, that is why they're most they suffer most from that infection. That it was why they do that to them. Apparently New Zealand has banned this thing. I can't think of any Latin American, like Peruvian, wool that I have came across that didn't specify that it was muesling free. So maybe on that side we're safe. But so yeah, the main point is Australian merino. But the thing is, people seem so uninterested about this and about knowing the source of their materials that you can't really be sure of anything. And yeah, I just wish there were more transparency. I just wish dyers and brands would specify if they know, and they should know, but it is actually kind of the job of the people that directly deal with these farms, like suppliers, to make it readily available, make that information available for dyers who buy their bases from them. They should know whether that yarn is muesling free. They should know where that yarn comes from. I think that should be a good start, just knowing the source, the localization of the wool you're using. Yeah, I just wish that was a little bit more open and that we know more about this. And I wanted to address it just so that if any of you didn't know about this, maybe you don't care, but that's a different issue. But if you do care, yeah, I would like this conversation to be a little bit more present, just so that at some point we will never wonder if a yarn that we want to buy and use is coming from someone that does this thing to their animals. So yeah, that's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and yeah, I had quite a few things to share with you. I will not have an episode until September, so there will be a little break. I will be on Instagram, and I am working on a project focus video, so maybe that will come before September. I'm not so sure. So we will see. I am sorry, I realized my phone is shaking for some reason. Yeah. I wish you a very happy end of August, end of summer, and yeah, have a lovely time, and I will see you next time. Bye!